Hello and welcome to the All the Pies YouTube channel. My name's Kev, that's Davy, and you're joining us after a fucking monumental evening of football at St James's Park. I've still got a massive hard on. I'm sure Davy's still got a massive hard on. So without any further ado, I think we just need to get right into it.
God, he scored so many goals.
I don't fancy getting into your hard on, like.
We'll have to go with the backup plan instead and just back with the football. We'll have to post this video on a different format. Then I'm sorry, Porno Tube, but it's gone to YouTube today. How you doing? Or is that a silly question?
Well, me personally, me back is absolutely wrecked. I'm just smiling because I'm just knackered. But I it's just not getting better. But I'm also smiling because I've been smiling for the last couple of days, really. I think everybody around here has.
Aye.
Just unbelievable.
mean,
But I actually got out today. I went out and went to the pool this morning, and I was thinking I'm going to talk with everybody about the match. There was no bugger there. It was empty. A couple of old women, and I thought, I wonder if they'll be interested in talking about it. And I'm
End up
swimming, like, you know.
End up getting arrested.
So I haven't spoke. I mean, other than my wife and like mates on Twitter, and like, you know, I haven't actually seen anybody to talk about it properly. It was my son's 21st as well on Wednesday.
Oh, happy birthday to him!
It was Alex's 21st, and I gave him his presents and that on Tuesday night, and I phoned him beforehand just to, you know, let him know that I was there, because right up until the afternoon I didn't know whether I was definitely going to be able to make it or not. And I phoned him and said, I'm on my way, you know. Are you already had a good day? And he says, I couldn't give a monkeys about my birthday. It's just it's more tonight's more important, you know. And I thought, yeah, good answer. But
Ding ding ding, correct for 10 points.
But it was just
do they still do, I'm showing my age, yeah. Do you still get those little sort of plastic silver keys when you're 21? Or is that just something, is that a tradition that died off years and years and years ago?
I never, no. I think key to the door when you're 21, most people leave home when they're 16. Well, actually, like, well, most people leave home now when they're about 35. So, you know what I mean? Most still living with their parents.
Aye.
But
well,
yeah.
Well, Davey, normally I would say, you know, what's been going on with my life and stuff like that. But to be honest, I couldn't give a shite at the minute. I just want to talk about the football.
I put a post on Twitter the other day, yesterday, and I says, the country's gone to bloody shite. My back is just falling to bits. There's loads of other crap going on. This is going on, that's going on. And I just thought, for once, I don't care about anything else, because we absolutely stuffed PSG last night. That's all I could think of, you know.
Exactly. And without further ado, I think we need to ask the question. Are you ready, Davey?
I am tonight. I am.
You are ready, are you?
I am. I'm ready.
Are you fucking ready?
Okay, let's go.
Tim celebrating after the match
hey, man.
with his Lego.
Do you want to talk first, or will I? I've got so much to say.
Well, before we get into the nooks and the crannies of the actual game, I think we just need to sort of maybe just reflect on the day as a day, because I mean, I was on a day off from work, and it was the first thing I thought about when I woke up was the match, in getting out for the match, and I had a few jobs I needed to do, but it was like I was an autopilot, so I was doing a couple of chores in the house. I was looking after our lass's niece for a couple of hours, sitting watching Space Jam, and like I was looking through the TV, and I was just like I was just itching to get out for the match.
Yeah.
And I met my pal big up Lee. We went to the pool hall. We had a few drinks, and I met him at 2 o'clock. And even from 2 o'clock, everywhere you looked in town was just black and white. And the day just had a special feeling about it right from the very start. In the lead up to it, I was feeling like the day before I was nervous, but on the actual day, it was like something else took over. There was like this other sort of aura within the city,
Yeah.
which wasn't one of nerves. It was just one of excitement and one of like just couldn't wait to get into the ground and to experience it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, it was all a bit of a blur the lead up to it. Had quite a few drinks because you know it was match day, and I just fancied getting pissed for the occasion, but not too much that I couldn't really
Yeah.
take in what was going
Yeah.
on. But when I walked into the ground, I mean, I got into the ground an hour early. I was just itching to get in there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, before the game, that display and just everything about it just was absolutely electric.
Yeah.
And I knew as soon as the flags went up, and I heard the crowd, and I saw how up for it the crowd was. I was like, this is going to be a special night.
Yeah.
This is going to be a special night.
Yeah. It was slightly different for me. I didn't have a drink or anything, but as I've, I didn't want to bang on about it, but I left it until the last minute. And I in my mind, I was definitely going, and I had to go and pick Sarah up from work, and went along, got in the car, and I thought, right, I'm in the car. I've managed to get in the car. I drove along, went over the first speed bump at like 15 miles an hour, and I thought, I'm going to have to go home. I can't drive like this. It was just terrible. And I thought, no, I'm going to keep going. So I basically drove really, apologies to anybody behind me on Wednesday, but I was driving really, really slowly. I thought I need to get there. And we got parked up, and we got in the last disabled spot. And there were other cars behind on the double yellows, and I hadn't really noticed them. Just thinking they're going to get tickets, And there were loads of lads suddenly came, it was about 6 o'clock because we got there early. I'm not very good sitting in my wheelchair, but like now I've got my legs up. In the car, I can put my seat back and I can recline, and I'm really comfortable in the car. So we got there in plenty time. These lads, it turned out as they were coming, I had the window down because we didn't want the car to steam up and think we were up to anything in the car, But,
a little bit of dogging before the match.
No, we're just having
ritual.
We're just having sandwiches,
Oh, that's not what they call it these days, is it?
But they were all Paris Saint-Germain fans. There was 3 cars, and each car had a ticket, and they didn't know what these things that on the windscreens were. What's this? And you could hear them. I mean, I didn't do French, but they were like, "What's this?"
Sacre bleu.
Yeah. And one of them was gonna chuck it, and no. And he opened it, and they realized there were, I think it was like, must be what, 60 quid each or something. So they've obviously all driven up, 3 cars driven up from Paris and driven the whole way. And they ended up getting tickets as well. And I just
welcome to our world, eh?
I thought, I hope they go back even more miserable at the end of the match. You know what I mean? But and then the next thing, we heard all the drums and loads of people, and we didn't see them, but they all disappeared, and they obviously went into the crowd of people. And we got into the ground about 7:10, just to get in. About 7:15 roughly, and I was just gutted because I couldn't go and do my collection. But we got in and whatever. And like you say, there was just a different atmosphere. There was a different vibe. Everybody just seemed to be really kind of a mixture of like it was Christmas Day, but it's like Santa hadn't arrived yet, and we're like waiting for, when's he going to come and all this. Yeah, like that. Yeah, exactly. And I I thought, I don't know what I'm going to be like when the Champions League music came on, and I was all right, exactly, because I do get emotional at things, you know,
Aye.
and I was all right, and I was just looking around with the whole display and everything, and I was just kind of slowly just taking it all in, and it wasn't until that the referee actually blew the whistle, I just thought, this is happening, this is actually happening, you know. And I remembered going back 20 years, my eldest lad, Evan, his first match was our last home Champions League game. He would have been 4. So, and I messaged him and I said, can you remember? He says, I've got a vague memory of it, but the first one he kind of really remembers was Shearer's testimonial. But I'd taken to a few games, but that was that. So it kind of it felt like things just going full circle and that, you know. But when you knew like Dan Byrne and Longstaff and you know they were in the team and you had Murphy on the bench, all fans, and you know, and I felt really emotional the fact that Lascelles was captain, because I thought he's been through everything with the last 7 years or so, 7 or 8 years, and I just thought he looks really fit. He looks up for it. You know, the last game he played, I thought he had a great game, but in the back of my mind, I was just thinking, you know, he's going to come up against some brilliant players, and if Trippier's found out the position, he's going to have Mbappe running at him as well. And I just thought, I hope he has a good game. You know, because I didn't want him to like have a bad one and be the scapegoat or anything like that. But yeah,
well, if I'm being honest, Davey, that was probably my only slight concern when I saw the team coming out, and I think it's probably a natural concern. No slight on Jamal Lascelles, because he had a fantastic game against.
Do you know what it is though? It's
Burnley
because we've only really seen Lascelles when he's played under likes of Bruce. He was fine when he was playing under Rafa. You know, he got stuck in and he was a strong defender. Under Bruce, he just seemed to have lost confidence, he's fit, he's getting coached better, he just looks a much better player, you know. And
I think my worry was probably lack of game time.
Exactly.
Like you say, that when he had played previously, you know, he hadn't done badly at all. I think he played in a cup game. I can't remember the team off the top of my head last season, and he scored a nice header, and he did well, and he did well at the weekend as well. So that was probably my only slight concern. I thought, I hope the occasion's not going to be too big for him. He's up against a good attack. But what we'll do is let's dissect the game bit by bit, because I mean, you know, you had all of the build up, you had the flag display, which was absolutely incredible, and then when it kicked off, I must say I was a little bit nervous. And in the first 5-10 minutes was a bit of a blur to us, to be honest with you. My mind was ticking over a little bit, and I was kind of looking here, there, and everywhere, not quite sure what it was that I was looking for, trying to see what kind of setup we've got, or we're hitting the press or anything like that. And they did come away with the first chance of the game. Moussa Dembele hit quite a nice strike, actually, on the volley, put it just wide. And part of his thought to myself, I hope this isn't a sign of things to come. But it wasn't to be. What did you make of like the opening 10 minutes or so?
Well, at the very start, they seemed to want to go for it, but we just blocked them. We stopped them, and there was a moment for me that was just brilliant, and it was about 2.5 minutes in, and they got the ball, and they were they were on their right hand side. I forget who had the ball, but they could have tried to play a ball over the top, but there wasn't enough space, and there was nowhere for them to go, because we basically were like one-on-one on every player. So it was like that very cagey kind of sort of start that you get in most games. But what happened was, he looked and he couldn't really go forward, so he came to the side, and he ended up, he couldn't go there, so he came inside, and then they played it back, And then eventually, I think it was Marquinhos ended up having it, and he was about 10 yards inside of his own half, just to the right-hand side, on their right-hand side. And I've watched it so many times. It was absolutely brilliant, right? There was 6 players. There was Isak and Almiron were the 2 that were furthest forward, and they were like on the halfway line. And then you had a line of 4 players, with Gordon is the furthest on the left, obviously, and then the 3 main midfielders in a line. And they just stopped. He had the ball, and he stopped on the ball, and he was looking for what's on. And the way that they'd lined up, there was nothing on for him at all. And they just stood, and then they started very slowly, in unison, just walking forward. They took a pace forward. And it was like, it was like they had choreographed a dance. They took a slight step to the left, but they all did it. They all did it at the same time. There was a moment where they actually they all looked to that side at the same time. It was like they were doing some kind of a ritual dance. It was bizarre. I was thinking, I'm going to do it.
Like Boyzone in the early days,
No,
wasn't it?
you know what it was? It reminded me of like an Attenborough program where you've got wolves or something stalking the prey, and I thought, and the men in the magpies in black and white. All this, I can't do the voice. You know what I mean? Yeah. And,
often stalked by their
yeah. And then they just moved forward very slightly. They took 2 steps forward, and the crowd noticed. They were like, I don't think they realized what they were doing, but the crowd started like, get at him, because he was literally standing with the ball, and everybody started shouting, and he panicked a bit, and he couldn't go forward, and he knocked it back to Hernandez, and at that exact moment, they all pounced, but Gordon was the first. He basically started sprinting, and within a split second, they all moved forward. And then within a few seconds, they ended up, the ball was on their byline. Gordon ended up challenging I think it was Marquinhos again, because it had gone back to Donnarumma, and they were pushed right back. And then Gordon was like this to the crowd, and to me, that set the tone for the whole match after that. And then it was 2 minutes after that where, as you mentioned, the ball ended up going forward to Mbappe, and he put the crossover for Dembele. But they didn't really have that many other opportunities. And even then, I was slightly concerned, thinking, but
well, I mean,
the way we did that, I thought, that they know exactly what they're doing. The way it was seemingly choreographed, it was like, it was just perfect. But the thing that I looked at, and I've looked again and again and again, and I've looked at different points in the match where they were doing similar things, where they were pressing. Everybody looks at who's pressing. I was looking at who was behind the other 4 players
to pick up the loose balls if it comes forward.
But they basically were one-on-one with everybody that they had further forward, and they just had nowhere to go. It's very risky. It's extremely risky, and they did play through a couple of times, but when they did, everybody just seemed to pounce, and the positional play that the others had meant that we really, got sort of like really taken out, and they didn't cause that much of a threat, really.
I mean,
that's perfect.
That type of play from Newcastle United is my favourite to watch. It takes us back to last season, away to Tottenham Hotspur, and in the Liverpool game as well, when you come up and your back's against the wall, and when we do that sort of high press. And now I think it's been a little bit more difficult to do that in the Premier League this season, because teams know we do that really well. So they sometimes have a plan against that, whereas the Parisians, when they came over, they probably weren't expecting that. I felt like Luis Enrique probably hadn't done his homework enough. That high press that we have when a team's not expecting it, you can suddenly see the fear in the eyes, and they go, "Fucking hell, what's happening here?"
Yeah,
And that's exactly what happened for the opening goal. You
yeah,
you saw that the defense was standing there, and like you said before, looking for that ball, and where is it? Where is it on? Is it on? And not only are the players like sort of waiting, they're like greyhounds in the trap. They're ready to pounce.
yeah,
And it's not just a case of like, who am I going to play the ball to? It's like, oh shit, if I play it to him and he loses it, we're 2-on-1 there, we're 3-on-2 over here, and they fill those gaps really
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, when they fell right into that trap, they fell
The
right
thing
into
is,
the trap.
I'm gonna go further back before the game because I recorded it and I've watched it twice. And there was an interview, and I can't remember now if it was Eddie Howe that actually said it, but the quizzed him about how he thought PSG would play, and I'm positive he said that he didn't think PSG would change their game to play any differently against Newcastle, and I think that was the key. Where I'm sure Luis Enrique will have done his homework and he'll have known exactly how we play, but then he'll have thought, right, well, we'll play how we play and we'll play through them. But I don't think he was expecting us to do what we did as well as we did. And
100%.
they were like
He looked shell
terriers.
shocked at
He
times.
did. He did.
You looked shell shocked at times, and for the goal, I mean, Marquinhos. I mean, it was a terrible ball forward, to
Yeah,
be
it was
honest with you,
awful.
for a defender. But that's exactly what they would have been doing. They'll be like, oh, well, we'll just think it over the top, we'll play it through them. Bruno Guimaraes wasn't having it
Yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah,
He heads it down, and I thought it was a lovely turn and shot
yeah,
by Isak, and I also thought it was a fantastic save
yeah.
from a keeper although he conceded 4 games, thought he had a
He had a
pretty
good
good game,
game. Yeah, yeah,
because that was not an easy save to make. Not only was it low down and Adam to get your hand down, but
yeah,
again, the positional sort of thinking of our players when we have that type of press is absolutely fantastic, because
yeah,
they just know which areas to go into. And Miggy had took the gamble to get himself into that little bit of space. And what a
yeah,
lovely, luscious finish, because not only did I have placement, I had a bit of power as well. And I can remember hearing the net ripple when he hit it, and
yeah.
absolute scenes of euphoria.
It's
But you
really,
couldn't have picked a better first goal scorer, because it just absolutely erupted the place. I've never heard a noise that loud in St
yeah.
James's Park, and I've
It
been
was,
going for lots of years.
yeah,
It was loud.
it was amazing. I think the only match that I can think of where it was louder, and it probably wasn't because I don't think there was as many fans there, but it felt like it was when we played Man United 5-0 that game. But anyway, what Miggy did, I mean, I'm a left foot. I used to play up front. What he did was really difficult to do because, and he kind of did it because he's such a left-footed player. But he come onto it. It's the only way that he could have done it. If he'd hit it with his right, it would probably hit the defenders, or the keeper would have gotten to it. The only way that he could get the ball in was in that little slither of a gap. But he was running onto the ball, and he's running onto it straight on, and he then turns his body as he's
Opens his
moving,
body up, doesn't he?
and then hits the ball as he's turned, and he hits the ball with his instep as he's turned that way. I can't do it because I'm going to do me back in, but it's really, really that technique that he did is not easy. I've done it lots and lots of times, but I was, people used to go on about me and my left foot and whatever as well, but obviously wasn't at that standard. But what he did was, it looks easy, but it's not. And it was a fantastic finish, absolutely perfect finish. And
Well, you're right,
he
because
came running towards us as well. He came running towards us in that corner, and his face was just, it was unbelievable. We were going crackers. It was just absolutely brilliant.
Well, so was I. And you're right what you're saying, opening up your body and hitting it on that instep, because, like you say, the temptation is to put your laces through it from
Yeah.
that kind of
He's
range.
doing
You
it
think
on
that
the
all the
move.
power, Yeah, and when you hit it on the instep, it does give you that extra accuracy. But sometimes what you'll see when somebody hits it on the instep, they'll sort of forfeit a bit of power for the accuracy. Whereas his seemed to have both.
Yeah.
For me, it was just a really crunchy, luscious strike,
Yeah.
and
Brilliant.
like I said, couldn't have happened to an absolute better player. The scenes in the stadium. I mean, I thinking back to it now, like I can't remember who I was grabbing. I was grabbing people, I was kissing people, I was hugging people. But from then, and this is where I'm just absolutely loving watching it at the moment. When we get with tails up, you just feel like we're going to score and score and score and score. And it
Yeah.
wasn't that long after that, Fabian Shaw, I believe, was it from a corner where he
Yeah.
put one just wide, and I thought that was in. To be honest with you, Fabian Shaw, who had a fantastic game.
It was really clever because I looked at them and we obviously had Trippier playing the ball. They had left, I think it might have been Mbappe, but they'd left one player further forward. We had 3 players on our halfway line who basically stayed back. So we had 4 players out. So there was only 6 of our players in the box. And I was looking and thinking, if he hoys this in, then he's going to hope it goes to Dan Burn or Lascelles kind of coming in at the back or whatever. And I just thought, maybe they're going to do something different. And I thought, is one of those 3 players going to suddenly come running down and into the space? And they didn't move. And then you just saw Shea peel off as he was going to hit it. They knew what he was going to do, and he peeled off. And the ball came to him and he hit it first touch, like, grass cut out with his right foot. And I think it missed by that much, honestly. The keeper was well beaten. Before Donnarumma got down anywhere near close, the ball would have been in the back of the net. And it was really unlucky. But that was another thing that I just thought we're going to come out with all these little tricks and plays that they've been working on all the way through pre-season and different training sessions. They'll have all these different plays, and they'll have little ways of telling them, the same as they do in like American football and all that.
Yeah.
And they'll know instinctively what they're going to do. And it was just brilliant. It was so unlucky not to score, but the thing was,
well, I mean, it wasn't long until the second one did come. I mean, it was a free kick from Trippier, who again had an outstanding game as well. I'm going to say that about every player because everybody did. But it was again, I think the keeper did really well in can count himself unlucky that his defense had a bad game in front of him, because he nearly saved them a few times. But it was forgive us, was it Bruno who got the header to start off with? It was a bit of a looping header.
No,
and the keepers poured it away.
No, it came. What happened was, there was something that happened before the free kick that was amazing, right? The ball came out to Trippier, and Trippier looked, and he played a perfectly weighted, curled ball down the line, and it curled and spun right in front of Miggy. He bypassed 2 players, and I mean, it was a fantastic ball, but the weight of it, everything. And Miggy basically was running, and he had a player running in front of him, and he had Hernandez running behind, and Hernandez he basically stamped on his back heel, got the free kick, and that alone was brilliant. That ball by Trippier was fantastic, but he took the free kick, and Lascelles was at the very back.
And that's right. The potential handball, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was actually telling other players. I watched them later on, and he was saying, "You come back, and then I want you to go in there." And he was kind of telling them where to go, but he came round the back, and he had a player right, who would it kind of held his position, and he went to try and head the ball, but as he went to head it, he got pushed from behind, so he kind of went like that, and the ball, I think it just glanced his head, but like his chin, and it hit his arm, and it bounced off, and it bounced in front of the 6-yard line, one of their defenders tried to clear it, but his clearance, he ended up kicking it nearly into the top corner. So Donnarumma
And it
made
ended
it.
up being a good save,
Yeah,
didn't it?
Donnarumma made a fantastic save and clawed it out. But Bruno did what he normally does at free kicks and corners. He had run round that far side, so he was in that position, and everybody's shouting for it. And Dan Burns said he was having to go at him at first because Bruno tried to shoot and get it in the near post.
Well,
Now,
just before we move on to this part,
go on.
I'll let you go on to it. Tonali had gotten himself in the perfect position because I remember seeing this guy sit right behind the goal. And I
Yeah,
remember when he before he took that shot, Bruno, I was like, he's got to slide it to Tonali. He
Yeah.
has to slide it to Tonali. He didn't. He took the shot, and I wasn't sure whether it was a save or whether it hit the post. To be
no, he
honest with you,
saved it. He
But-
saved it.
but because Tonali had stayed in that position, it came
Yeah,
straight out, and when he was able to give him straight back again. And I
yeah,
just thought it was really good positional sense from Tonali. And that, other players would have maybe followed the ball or say, right, do I need to get into a different position? He didn't. He stood his ground. He
yeah.
stayed there and he gambled a bit. So he was able to play it straight back out to Bruno.
But he had a defender on him, so he couldn't get a shot off himself. And he played Bruno in, and thankfully he was onside. But the ball, the little dinky ball that he put for Dan Burn, and there wasn't much power on it. And then you see Dan Burn coming in with like every
Fucking
muscle in his
Superman,
shoulder
wasn't
and
he?
his neck and everything. The power that he got. And if he hadn't got that power, Donnarumma probably would have saved it. But it was so fast. It was a good like yard over the line. Now I thought it was over the line, and I immediately looked at the referee, and it took a second, and the referee looked at his
Pointed to
watch.
his watch.
He looked at his watch, and I thought it's a goal. But then I looked in between where we were and the referee. The linesman put his flag up, and I thought, oh, he's saying it's offside. And I said, right, the guy behind me, he gets on my nerves. He doesn't know the rules, and he was like, "It was over the line. It was over the line." I says, "Yeah, it was over
That's
the
what
line."
I said he knows it's over the line.
I says he knows it's over the line, but they've got to check things. Oh, it's over the line. And he walked off. He stormed off to go for his pint, and obviously watch it on the screen because he always leaves early, and he comes back late and then leaves like 5 minutes before the end of every match as well. It really annoys me. But he doesn't know the rules. And he's having to go at the referee. I says, and I was saying to everybody, look, there's a handball in there I saw, so they'll be looking at that. I said there's possible offside. Bruno looked like he was offside. The angle that we were at, I wasn't even certain whether the ball had stayed in the cross that Bruno had put over. I said there's a possibility that might have even gone out and come back in. So if that's happened, they need to check that. And I said, so there's all of these things they need to check. Oh, the ball went in the mark of the net. And I said, yeah, but that doesn't mean anything.
That's not in question. That's not in question.
That's exactly. He's looked, his watch had gone, so he's seen that the ball's gone over, and we seem to wait an age. But I just thought he's going to give it.
Well, I'm interested to see what you think about this, Davey, because I was exactly the same as you, right? I couldn't see whether it crossed the line or not. I knew it was close, but I'd noticed the referee had looked at his watch, right? And when I realised it went to VAR, I thought, well, it's obviously crossed the line. Otherwise, why would they be going to VAR? They wouldn't go to VAR for an offside if there wasn't a goal. So I thought, right, look, the crossing the line's not in question.
Yeah.
Now, the amount of time it took, right? It could have just been the offside because they've got a pretty good system there in the Champions League for offside, which, by the way, I've got no idea why we don't implement it.
Yeah, I know.
In the Premier League. That's probably a story for another day, but it works really well. They've got a good graphic of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you can see, right, he's on side. So for me, that was probably what a maximum of 60 seconds it should have took for that. They had to have been looking at the handball for it to take that amount of time. And I would love to know what the thought process was. Was it something similar to the Gordon incident when he handled it by mistake, but he wasn't the one that scored the goal? Because for me, that's the only thing it could be. Because if I'm being honest, it was a handball. It was a handball, but he didn't score the goal. Do they have that same rule in the Champions League? Is the only thing I can think of. Because
I think in that situation, if it's an accidental handball, then
and you don't score the goal.
You don't score the goal, then it's a goal. But they were obviously looking to see whether it was accidental or whether
That's what I think.
But they'd had to already check the offsides on that first, because the first thing is check whether it's offside, because if it's offside, then they don't even look at that.
Exactly. And
But
I've seen them in the Champions League where they take about 30 seconds to get that.
Yeah, but that was done. And when I watched it back, and Jermaine Genius was commentating, because they don't get the images in the Champions League the way that they do in the commentators get them in the Premier League. So they didn't know what was going on, and
what it was they were checking.
But they didn't have the sense to think, because they were like, "Why are they still checking?" And I thought, why have you not got the sense to think that they're clearly looking at the handball? And it was obvious, and that's what they did. But there's people still talking about it, and I thought, you don't understand the game if you don't get why they were doing it. But anyway, it didn't matter because they gave the goal. And I tell you what,
Dan Burn, Dan Burn.
Well, the thing was, when they gave the goal, I was expecting them to give the goal, and I thought the offside must be okay. They're looking at because of the time it was taken. And I thought they cannot give deliberate handball for that, because he went for the header and it kind of glanced off him. So anyway, I was confident they were going to give it. So I was absolutely over the moon, the same as everybody else. But when I watched it back and the camera goes, Dan Burn had walked off by himself, and he just stands and he goes like that and he starts smiling. Honestly, I had a mixture of laughter and tears and choking and everything. I was like, when you just experience something, the emotion is so much that you just completely lose control. I'm surprised I didn't shit myself, to be honest. But do you know what I mean? It was just a perfect moment, and he just looked like the angel of the north standing with his arms out, and it was the size of his grin. It was just absolutely perfect. When you think of Dan Burn, and he was talking after the game, and they were on about him when he was at Darlington, and then like playing non-league at Darlington, when he got kicked out of Fulham when he was 25. 25, you lose a contract, and not many players are going to come back from that. And he's worked and worked and worked on it. And I think Brighton have basically let him go, saying, we've got these other players. He's a Newcastle fan, let's just let him go. And they sold him for 10 million, which when you think about we got Wood for 20 million.
25
rather. So the 10 million, he probably was. I'm not trying to do him a disservice, but at that time their valuation was probably about 6. But they've thought it's Newcastle, we'll get more. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But he's ended up. They thought, I probably watched him playing for Darlington against Hebden Town, because I remember when they played at that time when he was there. To think that a player who was in that could have been playing in that match, then played for Newcastle, a Newcastle fan who scores a goal in the Champions League. It's just like you don't even dream of things like that. It's just amazing. It was just absolutely unbelievable.
Well, I'm going to keep moving along, because I thought it couldn't get any better, and how wrong could I have been?
But the thing is though, Kev, it's not that we didn't deserve it. We, up to that point, were by far the better team.
100%.
And I
said that at half time.
Yeah, half time was like, we could have been a couple more goals up. We were the team in the ascendancy, but we played. And you mentioned Trippier earlier on, and all the players are brilliant. But that first half, Trippier's defensive performance against Mbappe was, honestly, it was like a template in how to position yourself as a fullback. It was just class. It was perfect. He's playing against Mbappe. Do you know what I mean?
I know. He's had him in his pocket. I mean, half time. I said that. I said, look, we deserve that lead, and there is still part of you though. And I had this right until probably the 89th minute, until the fourth goal.
Yeah.
That when you've got that class of player, on the pitch, it can always change.
Oh, exactly.
And there was a little part of us at half time that said to myself, right, I hope we'll come out and play the same way in the second half. I hope we keep the press going. I hope we stay in the faces. I hope we don't say, right, let's try and see this out. And they didn't. They kept to the plan. They came out. And like I said, Dan Burn, a Geordie lad, scoring. Can it get any better? Yes, it can. Two Geordies can score against Paris on the same night because Kieran Trippier played in who's Sean Longstaff, who inadvertently actually got a top corner goal. But it was I think on this occasion it was poor goalkeeping. He probably should have done a little bit better with this one. But you know, the power took it in up into the back of the net in absolute.
It was going in anyway. It was going in anyway. I think he did well to get down to it, but
he did. I thought once he'd getting down with it. I mean, I'm talking about Donnarumma as a keeper. He's a top class keeper. For him, once he's getting to it, I would probably expect him to save it. But it did have a lot of power on the shot, and Sean Longstaff running off doing the Shearer. I thought it was quite a fitting tribute, and that was it. That was just absolute dreamland. That was the moment where I looked, and it wasn't like yes, it was like
I was the same.
What is happening? What is happening?
I know. Here? I just laughed. I just couldn't stop laughing. But I was watching the angle I was watching at, followed his run, and when the ball came out to Trippier and he made that run, and he just kept going. And no, there was a player eventually went with him, but he was never going to catch him. And the Skriniar came to try and block him getting the ball over. I don't think he was expecting him to shoot, and possibly thinking if he shoots from there, then the keeper should save it as well. But his run and the way he just powered his foot through it as he was running onto it. And it was just perfect. And honestly, I just thought my heart just nearly burst for him. It was just amazing. And I honestly, I was just laughing. And I was hugging and kissing Sora, and everybody was all over it. Oh, it was just absolutely brilliant. It was amazing. Just an amazing moment.
And at this stage, you are probably thinking, how many is this going to be? But you know, it wasn't to be the perfect evening. I guess we do quickly have to mention that PSG did get a goal back.
Yeah.
There we go. We mentioned it. Moving on.
Well, my mate, I says to him, "Did you see the podcast?" Oh, I saw Davy Mick, and I says, "I'll stick with the 2-1 that both me and Kev said." I says, "Have you had a bet?" He says, "Aye, 4-0." And I was laughing. 4-0. I says, "What odds do you get?" He says, 56-1. And I said, "Is that all?
Is that all?
56-1 for 4-0 against PSG." He says, "Oh, no." He says, "I'm supposed to be going into work tonight. Like, I'm on night shift, but if we win 4-0, I'm not going in." Like, and he says, "I don't think I'll get in if we win at all, you know." And it got to 3-0, and that was the one thing that I did. I went off in my wheelchair for to see him, and I says, "Mickey, I bet it's not going to come up." "What do you mean it's 3-0? I says, "No, it's going to be 5, you know." But then not long after they got the goal, and it was a cracking little ball by their best player, Zaire Emery, the 17-year-old. And it was Dan Burn just played him on side, but he did the right thing because there was a player coming in behind him, and you know there wasn't anything we could really do about it. But that's their goal talked about. And
that's it. I mean, but just to sort of mention that, it was like, I don't know about you, Davey, but I had a feeling there where like it did bring us back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah.
Like all the euphoria kind of went, and then there was, because you can't help it, not just as a Newcastle fan, as a football fan, you go like, don't take this away from us. Please don't take this away from us, because you know any other team you would probably think, but then you see Mbappe's on the pitch. They've got so much quality.
I know.
But do you know what it is? They did create a couple of chances here and there, but we just didn't stop. We were relentless on filling the gaps, on closing down the players, and that's what brought the fourth goal. I mean, Fabian Shaw, I don't know what he was doing up there, but thank God he was, because he just puts in this amazing tackle, wins the ball back, plays it out to who was it? He places it in the
It was
middle?
Murphy. Played it Murphy, and he ran round the back of him. Murphy, he obviously gave him a shout. Murphy played it into him, and you knew what he was going to do. He was going to have a go, but his standing foot actually slides. It goes off under him, his left foot. So, but he still follows through with his right boot, and he's got both legs off the ground as he does it. For to keep his technique when he slipped and get that ball in, it was tremendous. And that was the closest I remember. It was the closest I remember feeling to when Philippe Albert scored the fifth goal against Man United when it was 5-0. It was yeah, it was just unbelievable. But I mean, to go back to them and how Eddie Howe said he didn't think that they would change their game against us. They actually did change their game against us, because they started off 4-3-3, and then when it went to 2-0, he changed it, and he went 4-2-3-1, and that completely changed the way that they played, but it left more gaps in that middle. And then he ended up come back in the second half, and they were 4-2-4, which they don't do. They don't do 4-2-4. And again, it just left more gaps in the middle, but they had to go for it. When the third goal went in, which wasn't long after the start of the second half, that was when they changed to 4-2-4, because they then needed 3 goals. Do you know what I mean? And they had to change, but we just absolutely murdered them. It was brilliant, absolutely
and
brilliant.
that was it. And I don't think a single, that there was seeing the players celebrate that fourth goal was short, and it was a cherry on the top, wasn't it?
There was a moment. There was a moment when not long after they had got their goal, where it might have been Mbappe, it might have been somebody else, was tear-offing down the left wing, and everybody else had gone, and I thought it could have possibly been offside, but I'm sure it was Mbappe. Anyway, whoever it was tear-offing down and coming down like their left wing, and I thought he's going to get in here. Lascelles came hurtling back and actually gained on whoever it was and got a brilliant right-footed tackle in. And again, the crowd just went crackers, because that was the moment where they could have gotten it back to 3-2. And Lascelles just sprinted as fast as he's ever done, made that tackle. And I think their heads I think they knew then that we just were not going to give up. And,
it was over.
That was a fantastic moment for me as well, that tackle by Lascelles. Brilliant.
Well, it was a historic night. Before we move on to what's now going to be a really brief sort of preview to the West Ham game, unfortunately, we have to stop talking about I could talk about it for hours more, but I did want to have a little word on like some of the sort of videos I've seen kicking about. I wasn't really overwhelmed by the behaviour of some of their fans. In fact, I thought it was a little bit embarrassing. The walk up and the chucking of the bottles and stuff like that, like with a flag saying ultras, and you're kicking off with some 14-year-old from bloody Scotchy, you know what I mean? It seemed a little bit sad, but I also wasn't overjoyed with some of the videos I've seen of War fans neither. Like there's one that's kicking about where I think it was outside of Mayfair, and one of the Parisian fans is walking past, he gets his cap slapped off him, and then they're chucking beer in his face and stuff like that. And he went to throw a hook, the lad, but to be fair, they knocked his cap off, and I didn't like to see out like that. You know what I mean? We've got to go. We've got to go to their country. How would you like to be walking down the street in their country and somebody slap your hat off you and then chuck beer in your face? So, well, lads, that's when people are coming from these other countries into it, let's not do ourselves a disservice by doing stuff like that. And yes, they weren't the most well-behaved fans in the world. No, they weren't. But that doesn't mean that we have to embarrass ourselves. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we don't have to join in. I haven't seen any of that. I haven't looked for that, but no, it's not good.
It spoils it for me. It spoils it for me.
Yeah, it does. It does.
We are going to have a bit of a chat about this Sunday. So for the first time this season, Newcastle United will not be on the television. I can't imagine how most people will be watching it this Sunday.
I thought we were. I thought it was on the telly.
Oh no, it's not not a televised game, unfortunately.
Ah,
Not on the terrestrial UK based televisions. Hint, hint. But yeah,
ah,
we will be entertaining. Well, we'll not. We'll be getting entertained by West Ham as we travel down to London, which is probably going to be quite a tricky game.
yeah,
I like West Ham. I've got nothing against West Ham. It's not a team I look at and think, oh, I can't stand them. Every time I've met their fans when they've came up,
yeah,
they've always been nice fans and they've been sort of welcomed with open arms. And this fixture does throw up a few decent results. So a couple that stick out for me was during COVID when we had nothing else to do but watch the football.
yeah.
We beat them 2-0 away, and there was a great 3-2 as well
Mhm.
when they got a man sent off and Maxi scored what was a really lucky goal. But in the head-to-head, it's quite even over recent history. Off the top of my head, I think it's maybe 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses.
Yeah,
Could be incorrect with that. But yeah, what you thinking about going into the game? There's obviously we've got a couple of injuries. There's suspension to Anthony Gordon. We've just
yeah.
had a really difficult game. Difficult as in we exerted a lot of energy. What's your thoughts going into it?
Well, the main thing. I mean, I'm the same as you. I've got a lot of time for West Ham and the fans. I'll not go into it. I've got stories about them, and they've been brilliant over the years and whatever. But the the one thing that I think goes in our favour is the fact that we played on Wednesday and we're on a high. They played on Thursday. They played yesterday, and yes, they're going to be on a high because they won as well, and they actually broke a record. It's the 17th consecutive game in Europe that they've gone unbeaten, I think. So yeah, it's better than any other British team, I think. But I think that extra day and the fact that they were away could go against them. Gordon's going to be a big miss, but I think Murphy will come in. And he's been bang on form as well when he's been playing. I've got a feeling we'll play Anderson again, and obviously Isak had a bang on the head, but he played on and he looked okay. I don't know who else is like looking as if they're possibly going to get back in the game, whether Joelton could play or whatever. I'm not certain. But they've got some decent players. I think the main three for them is Ward-Prowse in the middle, Paqueta, who plays in front of him in the middle of a three, and then Bowen is like their striker now. He seems to like to drift out to the right a lot, but they play 4-2-3-1, and to me, those three players are bang top on form. But you've got like Fornals is playing well, Alvarez is playing well, Agade is playing well, Kufal. You've got other players there as well, Suchek. He's always, last time we played them, I don't think he had a particularly good game. But they've got Ben Rama as well, and Danny Ings, who's always a danger. He's one of those players, who can come in and do a job. And Og Bonner as well is a decent player, but I don't think he'll start. I've just got a sneaking feeling that with having that extra day recovery and not having to travel the way that they've had to travel from abroad, could go in our favour, regardless of the injuries and Gordon missing. And
I think if we see Danny Ings on Sunday, I think it'd probably be a good sign for us because probably something's went wrong in
Yeah,
them trying to
exactly.
pull goals back. So the three you mentioned are the three that probably do worry us a little bit because Ward-Prowse, we all know Ward-Prowse can do
He can
like
get a goal out
magical
of
things.
anything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
The dead ball, corners, free kicks, so they're going to be a massive threat from there. Paquetá, he always
he's been
seems to up his
playing
game
well.
against us.
Yeah.
And if they can drag him out the betting shop with Ivan Toney, he'll probably have a good game as well. It'll be interesting to see how he comes up against Bruno as well. Very, very good friends, and
Yeah.
in a player we were linked with for a long time. And if I'm being honest, was really disappointed when we didn't sort of make that extra push to get him. But maybe he didn't fit into what Eddie Howe was looking for
I
in
just
that
think
role at the time. But I do think we did miss a trick with that one a bit.
I just think we couldn't spend any more money than we'd spent. That's my answer to it, because I think they would have gotten him, because I've heard that we'd still like to get him now, although we'd have to pay more money for him now. I think they must have been going to go over the financial fair play if they'd got him, and I think that's the reason why, to be honest, because I'm sure he would have came for to be with Bruno and Joelton. But it didn't happen. We can't dwell on it. It's just one of them things. But
he suits them. He suits them. He does suit them, and I don't think he'll probably be there next season. I mean, Man City already tested the water, didn't they? And they turned down the bid. I think sooner or later, no disrespect to West Ham, but one of the big boys, i.e., your Manchester Cities, Liverpools, those type of teams, possibly even myself. They're gonna look and try and tempt them away. Look, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Let's quickly go through with teams of what we were expecting for a starting lineup. So I'm interested to see what you've got first of all, Davey.
For them or for us?
For us.
For us, well, I've got Pope. I've gone the same back four that we played the other night, and I'm going for Longstaff again. I just think his engine, he's going to be fit enough for to go again. Bruno, and I think you'll play Anderson, and then I'm going to go for Miggy, Isak, and Murphy.
I've got exactly the same team. We're singing from the same hymn sheet most of the time, Davey. I think that feels like the right team for me. Tonali, I think he'll appear in the game at some stage, but I don't think he'll start the game.
He had a cracking game on Wednesday, but I just said just a minute or so before he got brought off, he was still running and still going for it, but I thought he was starting to run out of steam a little bit. I think we'll see the best of Tonali as the season goes on, as he gets fitter, and when he has a full pre-season next year, I think he's going to be absolutely brilliant next year when he's got a full crack at it. But he could start Tonali. He might very well do, but I've just got a feeling he'll play Anderson. And Joelton could be in the mix as well. Joelton could play.
Yeah. Oh. Well, let's quickly wrap it up then, because I think I'm getting a bit of latency and a bit of lag as well. So what's your score? What's your score as?
I'm going to go 2-1 again to us. I've got a feeling Ward-Prowse might nick a one for them, and I'm going to go for Isak and Longstaff.
I'm going 1-0. I'm going 1-0.
To us, I hope.
Yeah, to us. Oh, yeah, always to us. I'm going to go for an Isak goal. Not an exciting score prediction, I know that, but I've just got a feeling it could be the type of game where one goal could nick it. I think it's going to be a tight affair.
Yeah.
And
it's going to be a hard game. They're a good side.
It is. Well, Davey, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been especially a pleasure on this one. I've been looking forward to this video. I've been buzzing since Wednesday night, and I'm going to be buzzing right the way through till Sunday. I know I am. I'm going to continue to watch all of the bits and pieces on YouTube and rewatch the highlights on numerous occasions. But we will be back. We will be back after Sunday's game, where we'll probably be on our usual format of review preview. So if you could hit the like button, that would be great. If you haven't hit subscribe, that would be even better. Stick a comment in with your score predictions and your scorers. Like I always say, the first person to get it right will get a prize. But until the next time, come on!
Nowhere!